welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wealth with Joanne. I am so happy to have you all here. Before I get into the nitty-gritty today, and I have a guest with me as well today, just a big thank you to everyone who is liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting. Every single one of those does mean the world to me. And I know I say this all of the time, but I really do appreciate it. I look at every single one when it pops up and it fills my little heart with joy. So please keep that coming, and I thank you in advance. And you can also, just a reminder, you can find me on YouTube or of course listening on your favorite podcast streaming sites. So with the admin done, the admin task done there, I have a guest with me today. I have Paul Davis with me. Welcome, Paul.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much, Joanne. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, me too. And we just had a little brief conversation beforehand. And when I was doing a little bit of research on Paul, obviously we've not met before, this is the first time. And the topic that kept coming up was life's purpose. So this is the one that I honed in on. I've already give Paul a little heads up here, because I know, and if you go back through my podcasts, I can't remember, maybe 1-2 years ago, and I had a life purpose coach on here, soul purpose coach. So we spoke about that from a very spiritual point of view. So I'd love to pick your brains and you share your expertise today, Paul, and your methods on finding your soul purpose, but from a more, I don't know what we'd say, logical, real life, for those people who are not so spiritually inclined, not so woo-woo. So I'd love to dive deep on that with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
Perfect.
Where do you want to start?
So we'll just start with just a little bit about yourself. You don't have to do full life story, just a little background and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, cool. So look at it. I started off as a management accountant. I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest with you, when I left school. I wasn't academically minded. I never really liked school, didn't enjoy it. So when I left school, I wanted to make money. It's as simple as that. So I looked around to get a job. I got a job, and the finance director in the company was in a firm of investment brokers. Finance director in the company saw that I had an aptitude for numbers. So he actually encouraged me. He said, look, Paul, would you not, study accountancy? So I did. I took his advice. I continued working through the day. But then at night time, I studied accountancy. And the form of accountancy that I studied was called management accounting. CIMA is the initials that people typically recognize, which means that you're in industry and it's more forward looking. You're looking at the commerciality of the business, the budgets, forecastings, all that kind of side of things, as opposed to historical accounting. But in developing my career, I ended up more by default that I ended up going into companies that were making significant losses, and I would turn them around as quickly as possible. And I have a 100% success rate in turning every company that I worked with around from a financial perspective. And then in 2001, I set up my own business, Davis Business Consultants, with the focus of helping companies to develop and grow. It's as simple as that. It's about 24 years now at this stage. It's been going absolutely extremely well. Love what I do. But there's always a different side to me. So while on the accounting side, I've got the accounting, the logical, the commercial focus, and all that kinds of things. But talk about woo-woo. There is a spiritual element to me. There is a spiritual side of me and an intuitive side, and I lean very, very heavily on that when I work with my clients. So in recent years, I came out with my first book in 2012. That was called Evolve, and the tagline on that, I republished it only in January of this year. And it's all about aligning the professional self with the spiritual self. And when you align those two elements, now everything goes an awful lot easier, both in business and in personal life. So that was my first book. My second book was, I called it More, which is how to get more clients, more fees, more time. which is purely aimed at professional services and helping them to develop a growth business. And then my more recent book, which is called Genius Unlocked, and that's all about discovering your life purpose, but again, from a very practical way. I would get, from an intuitive perspective, I'd get a lot of knowings, insights, and images for people that clients that I work with. And it's always been in relation to not only what's going on for them, what's going to be happening over the next while, but also primarily what I've narrowed down to was actually what their purpose is. And what we've done is we've designed the business around what their life purpose is. So a lot of people talk about life purpose, a lot of people talk about it different ways. And all the methodologies that are out there never give the proper answers for people. Never. And again, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients over the years, and I'm able to define what their true life purpose is. We build a business around it, and they absolutely know that it resonates on a deeper level, on a soul level. And that's the difference with the Genius Unlocked methodology that I've discovered.
Yeah, I love that. So you've got literally have the best of both worlds for people who might be more spiritually inclined. So you have the logic there, and then the people who might be very logical, that you can then open them up to look from this angle. So that's really interesting. And I know for myself, when I first stepped into, so I used to be a school teacher. So this I've been doing for like 2.5 years. So dipping into, the spiritual side, what's my purpose? Am I doing this right? And then feeling a little bit of a block of, well, what next then? So I found this out, but what's the next logical step? Because I'm I think comes from maybe being a school teacher that, yes, I like the woo-woo and I listen to that, but then sometimes I'm like, but then what? So I understand that, but I need to know the logistics or the numbers or the how, and not just the woo-woo side of that. So I like that. And how did you so you have I'm guessing you're very tapped in and highly intuitive. How did you start to sort of notice, we'll call it the gift, it's powers, from going from being an accountant working with numbers to then having these intuitive hits when you're working with people?
I always had them since I was a kid.
Okay.
So I was born the seventh son of a seventh of a seventh, which in Ireland there's a lot of folklore around. So not only am I 777, if you understand numerology, you'll understand the power of 7, but also 3 sevens is highly powered. So I always knew. So in Irish folklore, if you're the seventh son of a seventh, you naturally will have a gift in a lot of shapes and forms, but primarily it's around healing. So I would have done healing as a kid. I didn't know anything about it, but it's just, those around me knew. And there's a test that you can do to see whether you have the gift and so on, which was done. So people will come to me from a healing perspective. So, but then when it came to a teenager, I just didn't want to do it. I honestly, I said in my first book, it felt like a bit like a circus act. So I just didn't want to do it anymore. But I would always get the intuitive information. I'm also an empath as well. And for listeners, an empath is really where you sense and you feel the deeper feelings that somebody is experiencing. And even though they may not know or be able to recognize the feelings, it's on a soul level, it's on a much, much deeper level. So I was picking up these feelings from other people and those around me and so on. So I always knew that there was something weird about me. that's one side. But then on the other side, I kept an awful lot of it hidden. I just really didn't want to tell anybody and all that kind of stuff and so on. And it's not something you kind of really want to share. And then as I was developing my career, every objective that I set, people talk about manifesting. When it comes to me, if there's an objective I set, I always achieve it. There's no two ways about it. Hence the reason why I've 100% success rate turning companies around. But I always kept it hidden. The guidance I would give clients is, look at, here's something you might consider. Have you ever thought of X? So I'd have the information and I'd approach with clients from that perspective. And then later on, as I got older, maybe just because it's old age and you care less about what other people think in some respects. And I said, in 2011, my one of my brothers passed away. And I kind of made the decision, saying, look, this is who I am. And I was
Yeah.
already writing my first book involved, and I hadn't published it, I hadn't finalized it yet, but I was putting into the book in terms of, look, this is who I am, intuitive and so on. And it was about merging my spiritual side with my professional side. And then when
Mhm.
that was launched, it was kind of the door opener to say, look, here's who I am. It's all of me. And if you want to work with me on that basis, well, then perfect. We can have a great relationship. If you don't want to work with me, that's absolutely fine too. And I've never looked back. I honestly, I've never looked back. I did lose clients, I will say that much. But that was okay. It was meant to happen.
Yeah.
But going forward, as each year went by, I stepped into more the intuitive side. So kind of in some respects, when clients come to me now, I kind of more it's the start of the conversation as opposed to the end of the conversation.
Mhm.
And I say, look, this is who I am. If we can work together on that basis, well, then it'll be just an amazing partnership. So let's and that's what's worked.
Yeah. And how do you start with your clients then? So if someone approaches you and now you're coming from the intuitive aspect first, what kind of question is it? Questions, or do you just sit down with them and see what comes up for you? Like, how does that work? How do you, what the first step?
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of it's a mix of a few different things. Um, how to say it? So it depends on the kind of clients and what they're coming to me for. Some people come to me and they specifically know what it is or what I do and all the kind of things, and they kind of say, look, I want to know what my life purpose is.
Mhm.
And then I bring them through a methodology from that side. Others say, look at them, I want you to help me with my business or my life. I'm at a crossroads or whatever, and so on. And I kind of, some people, again, some of your listeners may have gone to say like a psychic or an intuitive or a card reading or whatever it be. I don't do that. I never have done, never will do, and I just don't do it because it's not. Again, it comes back to me as a kid in the sense of it's a bit like a circus act. And honestly, it's a bit of pressure. So I said, look, no, that's your when there's pressure involved, your intuition starts to wane a little bit. So what I tend to do is bottom line is just build rapport with the client and say, look, let's work on this together.
Yeah.
And it's always both sides. It's always the personal side as well as the business side. I never just purely work on the business side of things. So when we're working through things, I'll I'll pass on whatever insights I get. It could be a workshop that I'm doing with a group of clients, and I'll pass on whatever insights I get for each individual within the room itself. When it's funny, when there's less pressure, more flows, and that's what I
Mhm.
found. When you're pressurized to kind of perform, a bit like you go to a comedian and say, "Tell me a joke," and
Yeah.
the comedian says, "Yeah, you've caught them off guard." Intuition works exactly the same way. So I prefer to just be relaxed with the client, and they'll know that I'm going to pass on whatever information I get. And I could be driving
Mhm.
down driving down the road, and all of a sudden I'll get an insight for a client. I'll either send a text message or I'll ring the client or I'll get the message to them in some shape or form. And that's what works best for me. And the clients love there have been times the clients will ask me, look, is there anything else coming up for you? Is there anything else that I need to know and so on? And in those occasions I'll purposely tap in. I just use
Yeah.
that phrase tap in, just to see if there's anything else and whatever else comes up, I'll pass that information on.
Yeah. That's so interesting. And do you find now that more people come to you for the intuitive rather than the, or is it a mixture of both?
They want both. Yeah, they
Yeah.
want both because, and that's where we are moving towards from
Mhm.
an energetic perspective. That's where we're moving towards. The old ways of doing things in business just aren't working anymore. And even, I'd have so-called intuitive say, they're still doing exactly the same thing as what they've always done, and they're trying to figure out, okay, why am I filling my event? Why I'm not having the same level of signups as what I used to have, and so that's because that's not working anymore. We have moved and we are moving into a completely different energy. So people want more of, so they want both. They want the personal side, they want the business side, they want both to work. How would I describe it? I'm not just an intuitive and I'm not just a business consultant. I'm working with how the universe works. And what I mean by
Yeah.
that is, so I'm working with all the 12 universal laws. Some people are familiar with one universal law, which is law of attraction, but there's
Yeah.
there's 11 other universal laws. But if you don't know how all the other universal laws work, the law of attraction is never going to work for you.
Yeah.
So I'm working with all of those kind of aspects.
Yeah.
And that's what people want. They want more of that as opposed to somebody just working on, say, their performance or goal setting or, how to get more clients. Yeah, we can do that, but there's so much more. And they want so much more out of life.
Mm.
And COVID, thankfully, was a good catalyst for that because people actually then stood back and kind of said, actually, do you know what do I want for my life?
Mm.
I want more. I want more fulfillment. I want more fun. I want more joy. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. So they've asked those kind of really deeper questions, and now they're trying to fill all that for themselves. And so
Yeah.
people talk about a holistic approach. I suppose I'm probably the most holistic you could ever get because I'm looking at all aspects of an individual, their business, their life, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also a product of the COVID, the times during COVID and I know I was actually talking about COVID this morning to a lady, and obviously how strange, and I know lots and lots of people died, but it really was a catalyst for me of changing my life from what it was
Yeah.
to what I'm doing now. And I don't know if that would have happened if we hadn't have, so there's definitely other reasons I think why we
Yeah.
had that, that change of energy in the spiritual world of the
Yeah.
buffer of 2020 of
Yeah.
when was it the new was 2020 the new timeline, or was it 2019 when things that
It was starting to ramp up anyway. And so from an energetic perspective, it was starting to ramp up. And I was saying to my clients, it's getting faster and it's getting more
yeah,
intense. And
yeah,
then 2020 happened in terms of COVID and so on. Everybody remembers that March 2020. But it definitely was the catalyst to say, it's out with the old, in with the new,
yeah,
the new way of doing things. And I had already been saying to my clients before that, I said, look, things are going to change. You're not going to be doing the same as what you've always been doing. And a lot of people fight against that because some people don't like change. But everything that needed to come in came in and now became the norm.
yeah,
Now, don't get me wrong, it had a lot of, there's always both sides, which is one of the universal laws. It's the law of duality. There's always both sides. So COVID,
mhm,
yeah, it had a lot of negatives. People fought with each other an awful lot more. People fell out. People stuck to their beliefs and they started having arguments with everybody else. So I did notice a lot of more people getting aggressive.
yeah.
And that has kind of still lasted. There's still the distance that the people have between each other, and you'll notice it when you go anywhere, and there is still that distance between people. People don't know whether to hug anymore or to shake hands or whatever. And so I'm a hugger anyway, so it's kind of it's hard. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But there's always been the good sides as well.
I'm just interrupting this transmission to bring you a little bit of Chihuahua and to remind you, and Dorothy wants to remind you, to please like and subscribe. So if you're finding yourself coming to my channel often, if you like what you hear, like what you see, every single like, every single subscription really, really means the world to me. I am planting this podcast seed, YouTube seed, with my bare hands from scratch. At the moment, that I am the editor, the creator, the director, the presenter. So every single little bit of support really means the world to me. It means that I can get on some more amazing guests, grow my podcast, grow my little YouTube studio so that I can bring more of what you like to hear. So thank you, and get back to the episode.
Yeah, and I do think it's just going back to the change in things. I think it really shone a light onto lots of things that we'd just been doing, and we thought, oh, this is okay, and the government tell us this, and we all, they're helping us, they're there to guide us. And I think after COVID was like, oh, actually, we look to this human entity to lead us, and I feel like that was kind of a light as to, no, the light is within you, whatever you want to call it, we all have it within us, and the people that we were trusting. And for me, that was kind of a shifting point as well. And I feel like, again, like you've just said, there's people who are still on this old timeline of we live this way, and there's people like all of your clients and in business that are shifting to the other side, that want to run their business from a way that's actually in line with their sole purpose, and in alignment with the gifts that they can give, rather than I just want to make loads of money and it doesn't matter if I'm good at
Can have
this.
both.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can make lots of money as well as,
you
as well
can,
as being
yes,
more
yeah,
aligned. But
yeah,
it actually becomes an awful lot easier.
yeah, because you're explain. So tell listeners. So if they're not, I know we've mentioned soul purpose. Like, what does that actually mean to you? And if this is the first time that somebody's
Sure.
heard
Yeah.
this, listening.
Okay. So I'm going to go spiritual here, right?
Yeah.
Because I go really, really deep from a spiritual perspective with some clients and when I'm doing workshops. So I have the belief, and again, this is based on research as well. Because when you speak to quite a few different people quite a lot of people that have had near-death experiences, that's where I get a lot of my research from this side of things.
Yeah.
Now you understand when you're getting a correlation, which is there's the analytical and the accounting coming out. When you get a correlation between what everybody else is saying, and again, there's been a huge amount of research done on this as well. So here's my belief. At a soul level, before we enter a particular lifetime, we gather around our soul family. And our soul family are those people that we want to come into our life and be with us throughout our life in order for us to have the experiences and mission that we want to fulfill. So we already determine what our soul contract is. I call it a soul contract because ultimately it is a contract. We are confirming what we are going to do in this particular lifetime. And we're making an agreement with those around us on the soul level of what we're going to do in this particular lifetime. And then what happens is we get born and we forget everything because now we're in human form and we've kind of separated from our soul purpose, our soul self, because now you've got that separation in play. But our whole part of our journey is to come back into oneness. So it's to come back into one. So it's the duality, come back into the one. So let me explain what happens. All you know is pure love. At a soul level, that's all you know. You just know pure love. So the difference between heaven and hell, it was a way of telling a story for people to understand it. But you create your own heaven and you create your own hell. It's not some magical place in the clouds. That's just doesn't exist. But all you know is pure love. So we all have and we all share what I call an overarching purpose in this life. So once you come into this life, your overarching purpose that we share with everybody else is to be your genius you. And I use your genius you in specific because I have a definition for that. So to be your genius you, to live life fully, to experience, to love, and to evolve. So that's our overarching purpose. And then within our overarching purpose, we have an individual, unique life purpose. So to be your genius you, there's a number of elements that make up your genius you. There's what I call your genius drivers. And your genius drivers is what gives you fulfillment. And think of it from this perspective. Imagine you've got 3 buckets in front of you, and each one of those buckets represents a genius driver. Well, your job is to fill each one of those buckets, hence the reason why we then feel fulfilled. And that's where the origin of fulfillment comes from. So we're filling those voids, we're filling those buckets. So your genius drivers are what gives you that joy, that zest for life, and that fulfillment in life. Then there's our genius quest. And again, the definition of a quest is a long and arduous journey to discover something or to find a solution to. It's the best way I describe for clients is because, again, I love everything to do with aviation. So if you think of the Wright brothers, their quest was to build an aircraft, an engine-propelled aircraft that would fly. That's what their quest was. And that quest started at the age of 10 and 11 between the 2 brothers. So we have our genius quest, and our genius quest is our mission. It's what we are here to fulfill. It's our soul contract. That's what we're here to do. And that genius quest lasts with you for your whole life. So some people that talk about life purpose, they say, well, your life purpose changes throughout your life and so on. It doesn't. Never, ever changes. It stays with you throughout your whole life. That's your genius quest. That's your mission in life. That's when people say, what am I supposed to do? They're at a crossroads and they're trying to figure out, what direction do I go in? The question they're trying to answer is, what do I do? That's their mission. So that's their genius quest. Then there's your genius inspiration. People talk about, well, find your why and do what you're passionate about. And that's what will give you your motivation and so on. But let me break those 2 elements down. if you find your why, it goes on the premise of people have come across this before in terms of, why do you do what you do? And if you're trying to work that out consciously for what it is that you're currently doing, but what if what you're currently doing is not what you're supposed to be doing in the first place? Well, then it's going to be the wrong why. And the second of all, everything that comes from a purpose comes from a soul level, an unconscious level, not from a conscious thinking perspective, because again, it's at a soul level. So if you look at and you're trying to figure out, okay, why do I do what I do? And you're trying to work it out consciously, it's never going to be the right why, because it's never going to be from an unconscious perspective. So I prefer to use the word inspiration. And inspiration, again, if you go back to the origin of the word inspiration, comes from the word inspirare, which is the divine guidance. It's the breath that was breathed in. That's what inspiration means. So inspiration is those moments where we've had those, it's awe-inspiring, and we've had those emotional responses. And we could be watching something, could be listening to a piece of music, it could be at watching a movie or reading a book, and we're overwhelmed with emotion, meaning the joy of emotion. And we can't control it. It literally, it's spontaneous. That's moments of inspiration. But when you ask the right questions and you understand what that inspiration means, now you're getting a piece of what your life purpose is, because it's your unconscious. I say to clients that it's your soul crying out for, that's what I want. So it's trying to nudge you towards fulfilling what your life purpose is. Then the last piece then is your genius role. And I've identified 10 different genius roles. Think of a genius role as a bit like an archetype. So it's not a personality testament. It's not nothing like that whatsoever, but it is similar to an archetype, whereby we're born to fulfill our mission. And the best way we can fulfill our mission is aligned to a particular archetype. But as we go through life, between school, college, work, and all kinds of things, we wear different hats. So therefore now we're misaligned with who we truly are. So we end up not playing our genius role. So, but our genius role is our best alignment for fulfilling our mission. So when you take all those elements together in terms of your genius drivers, your genius quest, your genius inspiration, and your genius role, now you've got every single piece of information that you need to know for your life purpose. Let me just take a genius. The origin of the word genius comes from gignere, which is the ability you were born with. It's the spirit and the ability you were born with. So that's how far back we actually go. When people talk about find your passion, passions are transient. So hence the reason why people find, okay, so they get, I call it, shiny object syndrome, whereby they get enthused about something and they go all out to fulfill that particular passion. But then after a bit of while, it starts to wane. But that's what happens with all passions, because if you're doing your passion all the time, you'll get pretty bored with it. So passions are transient. And again, if you go back to the origin of the word passion, is pati, which is to suffer. So that's literally what passions actually originate from. So finding your why, finding your passions, or even ikigai. Ikigai is this Japanese concept whereby if you have intersecting circles, and two of the circles in particular are, what is it you love to do and what does the world need? I love drinking red wine. I love horse riding. I love skiing. I love everything to do with aviation in terms of, jumping out of an aircraft or strap myself to the top of a biplane and going up 4,000 feet and doing aerobatics in the air. But the world doesn't need another drunk aerobatic in the air. It just doesn't. So what I'm saying is, look, I'm being a bit facetious, but bottom line is when you break it all down, you're looking at it from a conscious perspective, not from a soul level perspective. And yes, you can meditation, you can journal, and you can work out all those kind of side of things, but you're never going to get the same level of information that you need, the exact information that you need, because one of the primary questions that people keep coming back to is, what am I here to do? And that's your genius quest. So when you know the specific questions to ask and you know how to pull the information together, now you know what your life purpose is. And that's what I'm trying to share with the world right now.
Yeah, and I think, gosh, all of that's so important, because if you follow your structure, your method there, it's pulling out your sole purpose, not just what you think you should do from a subconscious level. Because a lot of the things that we think we should be doing, or like you've just said, your hobbies, your passions, or it comes from family, tradition, culture, that you kind of we put ourselves in a box, and we might label that as, oh, that's my sole purpose, but we haven't gone deep enough to actually work out, is it, or is it just what I think I should be doing? Or I'll call it my human side. So it's the human, it's the human me. So sometimes like, is this just the human version of me, or is this actually my soul inside talking to me? And if I'm, and it's a very fine line between the two, especially if you don't know how to tap in or listen. So you just go gung ho on everything. I'm doing this, and I still do it now, that I'll see something, I'm like, oh, that's what I should do. That's going to help my business, or that's going to help me to get more clients. And then I'll find if I do those things, because they're not actually aligned with me, that they don't work, because I've just,
It won't.
I'm either copying, or I'm just being too human, and like, okay, I need to follow this structure. And I think this is where, in the past, when I've worked with, and I'm guessing everyone who may have had a coach, that a lot of coaches coach something that worked for them. So like, oh, this is how I did it, and this is how I make, or you'll probably see them all online, I can get you $10,000 a month, or X amount of followers, just follow my blueprint. I'm like, well, no, because that's your blueprint.
That's what's exactly that. That's what has worked for them.
So just because it worked for you, if that's not soul aligned with me, I could do it exactly the same way. But it's not gonna do anything for me, and I'm just throwing my money away, thinking that this is gonna help, when it really doesn't.
Whereas here's the difference, and I kind of love this one, because people talk about manifesting, and people talk about, the law of attraction and all that kinds of things, and yet that law is there, but there's 11 other laws, and you got to understand the 11 other laws in order to make everything work. But when you align what it is that you want with your genius drivers, now you get what you want, literally, I'm not going to say instantly, but happens so much easier. So when you structure your business along the lines and being aligned to your genius drivers, and you've got the intention of your purpose of what you're trying to achieve, now you're in complete alignment with who you truly are, along with your genius role and all that kinds of things. And now you're actually achieving it. So let me say to you this way. People always say, okay, well, because again, I primarily deal with people in professional services. So let's just say accountants. So accountants one, but you have engineers, project engineers, quantity surveyors, and all that kinds of things. So let's just say accountants. When it comes to marketing, they'll always say, okay, how can we be different to anybody else? But it's very difficult. However, if you align yourself to your genius you, now you're going to be completely different, because everything around your business and your energy around your business will be completely different. So therefore, now that's how you're going to be different in the marketplace. That's how you're going to achieve what you want to achieve, and that's how you're going to attract the kind of clients that you want to achieve. I want to work with. So that's how we become different in the marketplace, and it becomes because we're being aligned with who we truly are, as opposed to adapting a marketing message or trying to structure it in some way that somebody else has structured it.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's, again, you just mentioned the energy there, which I'm just putting it onto what I do myself. Sometimes, again, seeing someone else's, oh, I'm going to do that, and then it'll completely flops. And then sometimes, say for social media, it's like, oh, I have to post something today, so I'm just going to post this because it's trending. And then I'll post, and then on the days when I'm just like, right, I'm just going to share this, it just come into my head, it comes from the heart, I haven't really thought about it, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with this, and it'll do amazing. And I'll get so many people dropping me a message. I'm like, oh, yes, I know this works. I just did this. Because my energy is in the right place. It's coming from my heart. It's something that, I haven't seen someone else do it and just jumped on the bandwagon.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, right, okay, it's those posts where I don't even have to think about it. I'll just be like, bam, 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 pop it on, and then forget about it. Then the next day I'll go online. I'm like, oh, right, okay. And it's just a nice little reminder. So for me, especially with someone who I use social media a lot for my business, and just keeping my energy to my energy and not the yoga teacher mentor down the road or 10 scrolls back, because that's her energy, and she might have not even had that energy from was probably somebody else. That we can apply this to all situations. So anyone listening to this, whether it's business owner, small business owner, working in business, mothers, fathers, that we kind of look at other people and think, right, that's how I should be doing X,
Yeah.
Y, Z. When again, it all comes down to your own soul alignment and your own energy. I just wanted to ask you, let
Sure.
me see if I can find I might just have to do it off the top of my head. When I was scanning through, I bet I won't be able to find it now. So we've mentioned the law of assumption, and I saw a quote. It might not have been in this one that I've saved open, that you said that if this is going to be a bad quote because I'm doing it off the top of my head, but the
Okay,
law of the assumption, if you want it and you believe that you can have it and you assume that you've got it, then you're going to get it. So it kind of comes under the manifestation as well. But I read that here and I was like, yes, how can people apply that again to business, to their daily life? And people may not have heard of, again, the law of assumption, because I was when I first started my manifestation, the 12 laws journey, I didn't even, again, like you said, didn't even realize there's 12 laws. Everyone talks about the law of attraction, but then you've also got the duality. You have the law of assumption, which I tend to use more now than the law of attraction as well. So can you talk a little bit about that? I know that was a bad quote. It's somewhere.
No, you're fine. Actually, do you know what? I changed the terminology of the law of attraction to so when I'm working with my clients, I actually call it the law of alignment, because it's actually more accurate. Because people think of attraction in terms of, well, if I just sit there and visualize and all that kind of things, well, then everything's going to come to me. So it's not. You've got to be aligned to what it is that you want to bring about, and now you'll bring about what it is that you want to bring about. But you've got to have a deep knowing and a belief of what it is that you want to have, and that's the piece that I find. Well, sorry, it was quite a few different pieces actually that I find a lot of clients struggle with. When you have so let me put it this way, okay? If you look at your current reality and what you're experiencing, so again, the Genius Unlocked methodology works on looking for the evidence, and again, it's the accountant within me. I need to analyze, need to find the correlations, so I always look for the evidence. So whatever is in your life right now at the moment, just look for the evidence. Just what does your life look like? So what's your bank balance like? What's your business like? Are you getting, a steady stream of clients? Are you getting clients that you want to work with? Are you in the relationship that you want to be in, or are you attracting the partner that you want to be having and so on? So your reality will always give you the feedback of what it is that your belief system is. So once you change your belief system, well, then now you can change your reality. And your belief system works from the point of view of, if you're looking at it this way, you look at the evidence, you look at what you're thinking, you're looking at what you're saying, and you look at what you're doing. So you look at each one of those aspects, and then if those aren't aligned to what it is that you want to have in your life, well, then now your belief system is telling you something else. So if you're saying, well, I want to have 100,000 in my bank account, but you're saying, oh geez, I don't have enough money to pay the bills. Now that's a belief system. So therefore now you've got to correct your belief system in order to bring about what it is that you want to have. That's so your beliefs are one of the, I suppose, one of the main areas of where I find people need to work on. The next thing that I find is that I'm constantly saying this to clients is, you've got to let go. You've got to let go, because as soon as you have a desire, so I bring everything back to a genius pendulum. So the pendulum, think of it from this point of view of, if you can visualize the pendulum that will be on the grandfather clock, the pendulum swings from left to right, and the arc that's created on one side has to be created on the other side. Hence the reason why the pendulum swings from left to right. Now, if you're desiring too much, you're purposely moving that pendulum out of equilibrium towards what it is you're trying to desire or trying to bring into your life. So now the pendulum has to create the arc on the opposite side. So therefore it will pull everything into your life that's complete opposite of what you're desiring. So if you want to be rich, well, then it's going to bring everything that's poor in order to try and bring you back into equilibrium. So if you're desiring too much, you're you're not going to bring about what it is that you want to bring about. So you got to let go. And that's the hardest thing for anybody to do, because human nature is we want to be in control. We want to make things happen. We want to kind of just be part of doing what we're here to do. And again, if you grew up in my generation, it was always the case of you can never sit on the couch and do nothing. You can't. You got to be doing work in the house. You got to be, doing your chores and all that kind of thing. So there's no such thing as relaxation. So you got to be doing something. So we still have that belief system in terms of we got to be productive. We got to be doing. And again, so when it comes to business, we feel we got to be working every single hour that God sends in order to get the results we want. No, you don't. As soon as you set the intention of what it is that you want to bring about, then you just got to let it go. And you just let it go. And then it shows up. But it shows up from the point of view of the inspired thoughts. And the inspired thoughts are those downloads, those images, those insights that you get when you're, in the shower, or you're driving, or you're doing something else that's completely random. And then all of a sudden you get this weird thought that's into your head and say, well, I should call such a person, or I should send this particular email, or I should put that post up on social media. They're the inspired thoughts. When you take the action on the inspired thoughts, now the things come about, or what it is that you want to bring about. You've got to let go.
That's so true. And I all of that, again, it's a practice of letting go, because we're so conditioned to have certain thoughts. For me, it's always a lot of thoughts around money, because I didn't grow up in an affluent family. It was single parent. My mum was on benefits until I was quite a teenager, I think. I can't even remember. So I know that what I've seen, I cap myself sometimes, because I can't have that, because that's not how I grew up. That's for other people. And I really have to, when I look at people, if I feel that thought coming on of, oh my God, look, they're doing amazing, but that I can never have that. I have to really stop myself. And again, it's not just about visualization of that I can, that I look at everything that I have around me, and I remind myself of all the abundance that I have and everything that I do have. So I flip out of this, I can't have that mode, into, wow, all of this amazing stuff. And then I put my energy higher. And I also find when I do that, if I'm in that zone, I'll have opportunities come up and that are not really meant for me, but I'll say yes because I'm coming from a zone of desperation, or I think that's what I want. And they'll always fall through. So then I get back into the mindset of, oh gosh, pull myself back down. And as soon as I start pulling myself out of that dark hole of, oh, no one books me, I don't get the clients, something else more amazing will come along. And right, okay, now I see that wasn't meant for me. I took that from a place of desperation, so it was taken away. Then I have to reframe of, that wasn't meant for me at this time, and more amazing things will come along. And something always does. And I'm always like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. I don't know why I had to go down this other path of realization first, but it's there just to show you that, again, if you're focusing too much on your desires, you might get the wrong ones come along. And
you got to have that. And again, if you read any biography books, people that are being hugely successful, and again, everybody's definition of success is different. But if you look at it from, they've amassed huge financial success and so on. Well, then one thing that you'll absolutely find in every single one of them is that they have a deep knowing that they're going to be successful. They just knew. And that's where your beliefs come into play. So they just knew that they were going to be successful. And so whatever they put their mind to it, they knew they were going to be successful. If you get to a place of absolutely knowing, which is the belief, you absolutely know this is going to happen, it absolutely will happen without a shadow of doubt.
Yeah, I truly believe that as well. And I think you do have to have patience with it, because you need the right things to come along. And again, this is something, and if anyone else is listening to this who's kind of new into business, and I left 12 years of school teaching and came into this, and then after 6 months or so, I was really disheartened that, why am I not a millionaire yet? Why don't I have hundreds of clients? And really putting myself down, instead of going, wow, look how far you've come in 6 months, and keeping my energy high there. Because deep down inside, I can see that I was never meant to be a school teacher all of my life. Like, even when I started school teaching, I remember even thinking, this is not going to be forever. there's bigger and brighter things out there. I just have to go, I have to do this. And I don't know what it was. I still don't really know what that was. I'm guessing it was my soul's purpose inside, just saying, you just need to do this maybe to get these. I think it's skills, people skills, whatever, to meet the people that I needed to meet to be able to be where I am today. And just having that reminder of some things take time. And I beat myself up. Why is it not there yet? Why have I not done this yet? Instead of focusing on, actually, look how far you've come, look what you've done, keeping the energy high, because I can see I have where I need to be. I just need to be patient and let myself get there. I don't know if that's something that you...
People think that it's, and again, so people think their purpose is supposed to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's not. Not. Again, the definition of a quest is long and arduous journey. So if what was that movie that was The Holy Grail? Harrison Ford, is it? There's a movie going back, and it's going back years. But you know, where he's going out to seek the Holy Grail, but he gets being, you know, shot at and, you know, hung up and this, that, and the other, and so on. That's what your purpose is like. So again, let me bring back to an example that people will absolutely connect with, which is the Wright brothers.
Yeah.
For them to develop an engine-propelled aircraft, they went through years and years and years of trying to develop that aircraft. Everybody else tried to develop it as well, but they learned from it as well. But they had so many different test flights, and many of them failed. But you know, that's hugely stressful. So pursuing your purpose, which is your life mission, is actually, you know, yes, there's parts of it that are enjoyable, but there's a lot of it that's not enjoyable. It's a long and arduous journey in pursuit of a quest. So what I'm saying to you is that, you know, if you think your passions are your purpose, they're not. They're definitely not. I'm saying to you, it's you've got to pursue a mission. And once I use this phrase for people, and again, it's a kind of a coin on the phrase that's in the Bible. What you do for yourself, you do for others. So in the pursuit of your quest, what you've learned and what you've developed in solution to your quest, once you've gotten to a particular point, now you will start to help other people. So it moves away from I, meaning I'm doing this for myself, into the we, I want to do this for other people. So again, use the analogy of the Wright brothers. Once they discovered flight and they could build an aircraft that was engine propelled, now they wanted to build more aircraft for other people. So that's how it transpires. So they're doing it for themselves first, and now they want to do it for other people once they've achieved a certain level of it. Yeah,
that's so interesting. I'm guessing there was lots of crashes before they got that. It's the same. Just going back to when you mentioned about famous people as well. Whenever you listen to anyone talking, when you were talking, Jim Carrey came to my mind because he's a big one because he talks a lot about manifestation and his magic check. But the people that really stick out are the people who can tell you a story similar to his, that he knew that he was meant for bigger things and he just didn't give up, and he was, you know, cleaning the streets or living in his car at one point and still going to auditions. And I feel like it's those stories that you're kind of like, oh yeah. And the same with the Wrights that Wright brothers you've just mentioned. There's so many examples that
people think it's going to be easy and going to be glitzy, but it's not. You got to put the work in. That's the law of duality. So the law of duality is that there's always both sides. So people want the pleasure without the pain. So the pleasure is, I want to have all the money, I want to have the relationship, I want to have the house, I want to have the cars, I want to have all this kind of things. But they're blind to the fact that they have to put the work in order to get to what you want. You can't have pleasure without pain. So there's always both sides. So when you merge those two together and you see, okay, we've got to do X in order to get Y, well then now it becomes more achievable is what I'm saying to you. So it's you got to align both sides. Yeah.
It's so interesting. I could talk to you all day about this actually. But we'll keep it in. So you mentioned your books. I will put everything in the show notes. Did you say you've just released a new one last month?
I've just released a new one, which is literally only last month. It's called Genius Unlocked. So the methodology that I would bring clients through on a one-to-one basis, I then turned into an online program. and that achieved so much success. And success from me, from the point of view of the hundreds of people that went through it, and the clarity and certainty that they got. That's what I'm classifying as being success. Because the testimonials that I got from them were just phenomenal. So in order to reach more and more people, I've turned that program into a book. It's kind of like a workbook. It's not just, you know, read this and you're going to know it's a workbook that you answer very, very specific questions. And by answering those very specific, and I guide you step by step, you bring all those elements together, and then you'll know what each one of your genius elements are, and what your ultimate, what your true life purpose is, what your soul contract purpose is. And that's the book now, which is Genius Unlocked. Yeah.
Genius Unlocked. I'm gonna get that. That sounds. I want to check. I'm going to put it in on my iPad now. Genius Unlocked. And your previous book, Evolve, is that right?
Yeah, my first book. So they were first published by a publisher back in 2012 and 2016. I republished those now under my own name in January in 2025 is when I published them. So the Evolve and More. So Evolve is aligning your spiritual self with your professional self.
Yeah. Okay. And is there any particular order that people need to read them in?
Not necessarily, because they're quite different. In Genius, in Evolve, I did go back in the republish in order to say, because I did talk about purpose back then. And I said, look, if you want to find your purpose, here's a quick way, which I linked them back then to Genius Unlocked. So no particular order, but if you want to, I suppose, let me put it this way. All three, if you're trying to grow your own business, and definitely if it's professional services, honestly, I'm not just trying to sell them, because you make no money out of books anyway, unless you're Harry Potter. But if you're building your own business from professional service point of view, my recommendation is get all three, because you'll get Genius Unlocked. You'll know what your purpose is. Evolve is more around, yes, it's aligning both sides, but there's so much information contained within there. And then More is going to help you to build your business.
Amazing. I've got them here now on my Amazon. I put them in just over there. Thank you so much for that.
And just make sure they're the 2025 edition, because they've been updated. So it's
so the new, this is I will.
Evolve looks like a sunrise, and then More is it's more blocky.
Yeah, I think I have that in front of me now. I really, I'm going to get that one so I can do just to make sure that I am on my soul path as well.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been, like I said, I could sit and chat with you some more. Is there anything else that you would like to leave the listeners with today?
If people want to reach out to me, they absolutely can. If you want to find out more about me, and because of a whole load of other resources and all that kind of things, my website is probably the easiest way. I'm not on social media. I'm only on LinkedIn. So you can still achieve success without social media. So what I'm saying is, the easy way is if you go to my website, Davis Business Consultants. All my books are there anyway, but there's other resources there and ways of finding out more information. I'm just trying to share the information with the world.
Yeah, amazing. And thank you so much for sharing with me as well. And like I said, I will put everything in the show notes, so everything will be there. And thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you. Love the Joanne. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share with a friend. If you've listened to this episode today and you think my friend needs to hear that, please share. Comment, let me know if you have any questions, and of course, like Paul said, you can reach out to him, and I will see you all in the next episode.